Long, long ago, before there was anything, God had a wonderful idea. He decided to make a beautiful world for everyone to enjoy. First, God made light to shine in the darkness so we could see. Then he made the big blue sky above us, stretching far and wide. He separated the water and the dry land, creating oceans and continents. God thought this was very good. He wanted to fill this new world with amazing things, with life and beauty, so everyone could see how wonderful his creation was. It was the start of everything we know and see around us today, a fresh and perfect beginning. Next, God made all the plants grow. Green grass covered the fields, and tall trees reached for the sky. Bright flowers bloomed in many pretty colors, making the world look lovely. Then God filled the skies with birds that sang sweet songs. He filled the seas with fish of all shapes and sizes, swimming in the deep blue water. On the land, he made all the animals, big and small, from tiny insects to giant elephants. God saw everything he had made, and he was very pleased. It was a perfect world, full of life and wonder, ready for someone special. Then God made the first man, Adam. He made Adam from the dust of the ground. God breathed life into Adam, and Adam became alive. God made a beautiful garden for Adam to live in, called the Garden of Eden. It was a happy place, filled with fruit trees and lovely flowers. Adam was not alone for long, because God then made the first woman, Eve, to be Adam's friend. Adam and Eve were very happy in the garden. They talked with God and took care of all the plants and animals. They had everything they needed, and life was simple and good. But one day, Adam and Eve made a mistake. They did something God had told them not to do. Because of this, they had to leave the beautiful garden. Life became harder for them. As time went on, many people were born, and the world became a busy place. Sadly, many people forgot about God. They started to do bad things and were not kind to each other. God was very sad to see this. He saw that the world he had made so good was now filled with unkindness. He knew he had to do something to help people remember him and live in a better way. There was a good man named Noah. Noah loved God and always tried to do what was right. God saw that Noah was a good man in a world that had become very wicked. So God spoke to Noah. He told Noah that he was going to send a big flood to wash the world clean. God wanted to start again with Noah and his family. He told Noah to build a very big boat called an ark. This ark needed to be big enough to hold Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives. It also needed to hold 2 of every kind of animal, a boy and a girl. Noah listened carefully to God. He did exactly what God told him to do. Building the ark was a very big job. It took a very long time. People laughed at Noah. They did not believe a flood was coming. But Noah kept on working. He gathered all the wood. He built the ark strong and tall, just as God said. When the ark was finished, Noah brought his family inside. Then all the animals came, 2 by 2. Little animals and big animals, birds and creeping things all went into the ark. God then closed the door of the ark, keeping them safe inside. Soon the rain began to fall. It rained and rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The water covered all the land, even the highest mountains. Everyone and everything outside the ark was washed away. But Noah, his family, and all the animals were safe inside the ark, floating on the water. After many months, the water started to go down. The ark rested on a mountaintop. Noah sent out a dove to see if there was dry land. Finally, the dove came back with an olive leaf. This meant there was dry land again, and new plants were growing. Many years later, God chose another man named Abraham. God told Abraham to leave his home and his family. God promised to take him to a new land. God also promised Abraham that he would have a very big family, as many as the stars in the sky. Abraham trusted God. He packed up all his things and started on a long journey. He did not know where he was going, but he believed God would lead him. Abraham's wife Sarah went with him. This was a big test of Abraham's faith, to leave everything he knew behind just because God asked him to. Abraham's faith in God was very strong. God tested Abraham's trust many times. One time, God asked Abraham to do something very difficult, to show how much he trusted God. Abraham was ready to obey, even though it was hard. Because Abraham showed such great faith, God blessed him very much. God kept his promise, and Abraham became the father of a great nation, just as God had said. His family grew, and they were known as God's chosen people. They learned that trusting God, even when things are confusing or scary, is very important. Abraham is remembered as a man of great faith. Many, many years passed. Abraham's family, the Israelites, ended up living in a land called Egypt. At first, things were good, but then a new king called Pharaoh came to power. He was afraid of the Israelites because there were so many of them. So, Pharaoh made them slaves. He made them work very hard and was very cruel to them. The Israelites cried out to God for help. God heard their prayers. He chose a man named Moses to lead his people out of Egypt and to freedom. Moses had grown up in Pharaoh's palace, but he was an Israelite. God spoke to Moses from a burning bush that did not burn up, telling him this important job. Moses went to Pharaoh and told him, "Let God's people go." But Pharaoh's heart was hard. He said no. So God sent 10 terrible troubles, called plagues, on Egypt. Each plague was worse than the last. There were frogs everywhere, then flies, then sickness for the animals. Still, Pharaoh would not let the people go. The last plague was the worst of all. God told the Israelites to mark their doors with lamb's blood. That night, the firstborn son in every Egyptian family died. But the angel of death passed over the homes of the Israelites. This was called the Passover. After the last terrible plague, Pharaoh was scared. He finally told Moses and the Israelites to leave Egypt. They left quickly, taking their animals and their things. But soon, Pharaoh changed his mind again. He sent his army with chariots to chase after them. The Israelites were trapped by the Red Sea. They were very afraid. But Moses told them to trust God. God told Moses to hold his staff over the sea. When he did, God made a strong wind blow, and the waters of the Red Sea parted. The Israelites walked through on dry land, with walls of water on each side. When the Egyptian army tried to follow, the waters came crashing back down on them. God had saved his people. Later, after the Israelites had reached their new land, there was a young shepherd boy named David. The Israelites were at war with people called the Philistines. The Philistines had a giant soldier named Goliath. Goliath was very big and strong. He wore heavy armor and carried a huge spear. Every day, Goliath would shout at the Israelite soldiers and dare anyone to fight him. All the Israelite soldiers were very afraid of Goliath. No one was brave enough to fight him. They thought he was too big and too strong to beat. The whole army felt scared and hopeless. But David was not afraid. He was just a boy, but he had strong faith in God. David knew that God had helped him fight lions and bears to protect his sheep. He believed God would help him fight Goliath too. David told King Saul that he would fight the giant. King Saul was surprised, but let him try. David did not wear heavy armor like Goliath. He just took his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a stream. David trusted in God's strength, not his own. He knew that with God's help, even a small boy could do great things. When Goliath saw David, he laughed. He thought it was a joke for a boy to fight him. But David shouted back that he came in the name of God. David put a stone in his sling. He swung it around and let the stone fly. The stone hit Goliath right in the forehead. The giant fell down to the ground, defeated. David showed everyone that with faith and courage, even the biggest problems can be overcome. He showed that God can use anyone, no matter how small or young, to do amazing things for him. David later became a great king. These amazing stories from the Old Testament teach us so many important lessons. They show us how important it is to have faith in God. Abraham trusted God's promises, even when he couldn't see how they would come true. Noah trusted God and built the ark, even when people laughed. Moses trusted God to lead the people out of Egypt. David trusted God to help him fight Goliath. Their faith reminds us to trust God in our own lives, especially when things are difficult or we feel unsure about what to do next. God is always with us. These stories also teach us about courage. Moses was brave to stand up to Pharaoh. The Israelites were brave to walk through the Red Sea. David was very brave to face the giant Goliath all by himself. They show us that true courage comes from trusting in God, not from our own strength or power. When we feel scared, we can remember these brave people and ask God to give us courage too. Their bravery inspires us to face our own challenges and fears. knowing that we are not alone and that God will help us through. Finally, these epic tales give us hope. They show that even when things seem very bad, God has a plan. He can bring good out of difficult situations. The flood brought a new beginning. Slavery in Egypt led to freedom and a new home. A giant's challenge led to a great victory. These stories remind us that God is always working, even when we can't see it. They fill us with hope that no matter what we face, God is with us. He loves us, and He can help us find our way forward. They are timeless stories that continue to inspire people today.